You may be wondering why I took this old typewriter and camping lantern into the mountains with me today. Well, for one, it's a really cool typewriter, and old things like this have sparked some great creative memories for me. Second, it seemed like it'd be a good creative challenge to try to paint a still life outdoors. I've had the idea to try it for quite a while, and it might not turn out as well as I envisioned, but that's probably not the point. For me, the point was to get outside and practice doing the thing I have come to love doing, exploring and discovering while making art. For this experiment, I'm only using a pen, these watercolor markers, and Neocolor II crayons, on some canvas paper I picked up recently. I guess I can't stop trying new things. After getting the basic sketch down with the pen, I erased the underlying pencil sketch with a kneaded eraser, and I'm ready to paint this scene. I started out with the watercolor markers because they're good for laying down some really precise colors, which is kind of helpful for things that need precise edges, like a typewriter and a lantern. These are the Winsor Newton Promarker Watercolor pencils, and I like them a lot. I wish they came with a few more colors though, because I haven't quite figured out the best way to blend with them. I'll struggle with that a little later, but this typewriter has some pretty simple colors, so I'm good for now. And this lantern has even easier colors, but I'll have to figure out the lighter tones of that chrome base for sure. I don't have a good color for this table though, so I'm going to start out with this raw sienna color and try to blend or mix a different color from it. There is a burnt red color, but I didn't bring it. And I also didn't bring any brown with the Neocolors for some reason. I'll figure it out though, because my typewriter says the more I practice, the better I'll get. I also know I'm not going to spend the time to do all those holes on the table. I think I'll use my artistic license and make it a wooden table. And now it's time to make a mess. These crayon-looking wax pastels are water-soluble, which means when I wet them with the water and a brush, they will be a little like paint. I like them because they're easy to use and I can draw and mix colors fairly well with them. I'm putting them on fairly lightly at this stage because I'm still trying to get a feel for the composition of the background. This forest is beautiful, but it's also sort of complex. I'm not going to be able to draw every detail, but I want to put enough detail in to give the impression of what it's like to be here. After I sketch out a few ideas, I pretty much erase them all away after I put the water down. That might seem odd, but it's kind of part of my process of thinking and creating. I used the colors that I thought would work, and I'm really only trying to get rid of the white of the paper at this point. And that first sketch was just a way of thinking through it. I warned you that I was going to make a mess. But I did slow down a bit for that lantern at least. I also got rid of the white typewriter keys. I was okay with that too, because I've got a new trick up my sleeve for getting the white highlights back. But first, I'm just going to focus on the forest. Painting trees is sort of an abstract thing. I'm never going to paint every leaf or pine needle, so I want to get those colors and textures that feel like trees. The size of the tree trunks, bigger ones in the front and smaller ones in the distance, can help establish depth. So I'm doing that, but so can hints of that trail meandering into the distance. Making the tree trunks more reddish makes for a good contrast with the green, but I'll add some darker shadows a bit later as well, to make them stand out a little bit more. Once I have the mood of the forest established, it's time to reintroduce some details back into those objects. I mentioned I had a new way of getting whites back onto my paintings. I often use an eraser for that, but this time I'm using a white Posca brush pen. Posca pens are an acrylic paint in pen form. I like that because it's a much cleaner solution than mixing paint on a palette, and it's more portable for me. I'm also using it for all kinds of highlights. I found that I can paint over the white marks as well, so I can tint the white as needed, but I probably don't need to with these marks. Typed onto this paper is a question asking if I have to be good at art to enjoy it. Probably not, because being good at art is pretty subjective. So that's a question only you can answer for yourself. But like typing, art has become more enjoyable as I get better at it. For example, you don't really need to know how to type to write a book, but learning that skill of typing would probably help out a lot. Then you can start thinking about what you want to type rather than how to type it. That's a big distinction. Thinking about what to make rather than how to make it, I think makes a big difference in creating art. With practice, I've gotten sufficiently good at drawing and painting, and it gave me confidence that I could even attempt this scene. And it's been fun. So how do you get better? Practice, practice, practice. Pick up a pencil, a marker, or even a crayon, and some paper, and make a mess. You'll probably learn a thing or two. We tend to think that getting good at art is about getting the right materials. Good materials can help, but it's a little like saying, "That was a good book. You must have used a really nice typewriter." Is that the same typewriter the professionals use? No one says that with writing, so I'm not sure why we say it with the visual arts. I say, use whatever materials you'd like to use and make something that only you can make. It'll be fun. All in all, I think this was a good experiment. I'll definitely use this paper again. I like the combination of the markers and the Neocolor pastels, and that Posca Pen was a nice surprise. But this typewriter was the star of the show. Thanks for exploring art with me. See you in the next art experiment, which is this video right here.